That's going down with a bunch of crazed dogs.
My camera. How about them Giants? How about them Giants? How about them Giants?
Woo! What's happening, people? Welcome to another episode of Giants Rush, where we talk Giants football every week, 50 weeks of the year, because we do take 2 weeks off. And of course, plenty to talk about. It's the off season, so anything goes. If you got a rumor, just spit it out there and we'll tell everybody it's true, because that's what's happening on the internet right now. Anything's true right now. Stafford wants $50 million. Jackson Dart's going to run a 4.40. It's crazy. Anything that you say right now is true. So as Trump would say, it's always true, deny. So here we are talking Giants football, and we're, a couple weeks away from free agency, which is super cool. Bang. Thanks for hanging out with us. See you guys piling in the room. And hello. I see you, Jake. I see you, Daniel. What's going on? I got the guys from BBI on here tonight. So we're in honor of those guys. Bang. We're having a couple beers because evidently they like to consume cold beverages like we do. So we got those guys on. I got Eric. I got John. We're going to talk with those guys. I got my guys in the house. Of course, let's bring it. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot. Zach, it's good to be the king.
It's good to be the king.
Yes, it is. Let's bring in Chris, because he's always my right-hand man.
Chris, Coach Boston, he is the man. Well, the Cavs to toughen up is over here and give themselves a beer bath.
Craig.
Love the beer bash, dude.
I love the beer bash.
Love the beer
Even
bash.
on a Monday, that's right. Yeah.
So, of course,
What's
on
happening?
a Monday.
Yes.
Monday is just basically what I call post-Sunday.
Yeah, or
Right?
post-mortem, depending on
when
the
it comes to
season.
the New York Giants, it is post-mortem.
Yeah.
But that's going to change in 2025 because we are going to win some games and we're going to do some cool stuff. I see Greg, I see Jay, I see Mark Stewart, I see Shawnee. Oh, Joker's in the house. I see Mark Stewart. I see a bunch of you guys. I see Coles, OG's in the house. See you guys rolling in. Glad you guys are here. Again. The BBI guys are here, so we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff, right, Chris? We're going to kind of roll it out we're going to talk Stafford, Plaxico Burress. We're going to talk about identity. Let's bring those guys in so they don't have to hang out and drink by themselves in the back too much. Bring me in. Let's bring in John and Eric. Zach. There they are, gentlemen.
Damn, this is some serious special effects you guys got going.
Well, it makes up for the nonsense that we talk about. People are like, "Oh, they talk a lot."
I love it. What I want to get back to is your intro with all those great Giant memories. Can we get back to that, please? Damn.
Yeah. That is gonna take some creativity, Eric, this off season. But we are hoping for. And we can jump right into that, like to get back to winning games, guys. And thanks again for joining us, hanging out with us, and putting up with my crap, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cheers. Chris and I actually are pretty lock and step on this, guys, and I'll let you guys jump in. You got to win 7 games. The New York Giants have to win 7 games before they win 10 or before they win 9. We got to get back to winning. Get what Eric just said. We got to get back to some of those times where we had dominant players, winning games, and playing meaningful football in December. So let's just conquer the biggest rumor out there for the New York Giants, guys. John, tell me what your thoughts are on the quarterback spot. You don't have to necessarily live in the Stafford world, but the Stafford rumor mill is on full speed. So I'm going to kick it to you and say, what's your thoughts on this free agency period on the QB spot?
Yeah, so I'm probably one of the few people who's 100% all in on we should try to get Stafford. And the reason that we should try to get Stafford is you mentioned it already about the wins, right? A lot of people throw that out there. Well, what are you talking about? We're talking like 6, 7, 8 wins. Who cares? Why would we do that? The last 2 Super Bowl teams the Giants had won 9 games and 10 games in the regular season. The 9-game one, they barely made the playoffs that year. I mean, it was a struggle. They very easily could not have made it, and you can't have that run. You've got to get in the playoffs to be able to make a run. If you can guarantee me 8 wins, that leaves for the rest of the season, there's 9 other games. You got to win a couple of others. So if I know Stafford is going to equal 7, 8 wins automatically, we're going to steal a couple more that gets us in the playoffs. But it also gives you flexibility come the draft. I don't want to be forced at 3 to take a quarterback that I'm not all in on when there might be a better player, or positionally I could drop down and get more picks and load up. Stafford opens the door to a lot of things. And by the way, those decisions that are being made for Shane and Daboll, this is what they have to do to stay here. And if I'm them, I'm trying to win games.
Yeah, I love that, because believe it or not, Chris and I have been talking about that now for, I don't know, Chris, how long have I was originally on the Cousins bandwagon during the season, okay? Because I kept saying to myself, okay, here's a guy that won 7 games with a bad shoulder on a repaired Achilles tendon, and he still won 7 games, okay? And guess what? Penix fell to them. They're going to have to move on somehow to trade Cousins. So I was already on looking for a guy that could win games, right? Now it's kind of moved into the Stafford thing. Eric, you alluded to is like those winning times, Eric. Like, we got to win games so free agents even want to come here, right? Like, guys that, you know, like wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, they want to know who's throwing me the ball, who's handing me the ball. Do we have an offensive leader? We got a guy that can be a leader of men. You know, you complimented me on the opening of the show, showing all those really great legacy guys. If you got a guy that knows how to win, Eric, Stafford might be the guy.
Yeah, the concern is, and everyone knows this, he's 37 years old. So, again, John makes a very convincing, persuasive argument. I'm not arguing against it, but there is this, you know, how many years are you going to have him? The truth of the matter is this, and we all know this, the Giants don't have a quarterback. They've botched this position forever. For whatever reason, they tied their wagon to Daniel Jones way too long. And for whatever reason, they went into 2024 with very little insurance in case it didn't work. So their backup plan seems to have been Drew Lock, which I don't understand that rationale, given the fact that Daniel was coming into camp with an injury that they weren't even sure if he was going to be ready for the start of the season. So the whole thing, the way they've handled the quarterback position, has put them in this mess. If you took the Daniel Jones decision out of the equation, what Shane and Daboll have done looks a lot better. But when you add that contract that, you know, they redid the $160 million deal, that throws everything into chaos and where they are right now. So so they've got to get a quarterback. The question is where do they get the quarterback? I think we all kind of think they're going to get a vet and maybe a rookie, because the only quarterback they're going to theoretically have under contract is Tommy DeVito. He's an exclusive rights free agent. We're assuming they're just going to tender him because he'll be real cheap. But whether he's even on the roster next year, we don't know. So what John and I have been debating from the beginning is it better to get the vet and which is a safer play for the Giants, or is it better to go try to get the quarterback in the draft and hopefully you get your own version of Jaden Daniels, that type of thing. Now, the problem with that strategy is because they won the Colts game, they are not guaranteed to get one of those 2 quarterbacks, even if you like those 2 quarterbacks. It looks like one of those 2 will be there, but they're not guaranteed that. And if they don't sign or trade for the free agent in early March, then they're going to be more desperate when the draft is in late April, because then they're going to, if you're Shane and you're Daboll, you're like, oh my God, we got to get a quarterback, or it's going to be like musical chairs and you're left without a chair. So that's kind of the position they're in, which is kind of ugly.
And in fact, Chris and I were talking about, like, free agency basically dictates the roadmap, because if they go out and they get that big free agent, you know, hey, we can maybe get a quarterback in the 2nd or the 3rd round, or we can wait till next year. But it all depends on what they're going to do in free agency. And I like both your arguments. I like both your points. there's something that kind of goes under the radar right now. And I mean, I'm sure you guys have talked about it on your show, and you guys talk about it, throughout the week. Is there's a certain amount of guys on this team that aren't really going to want to wait 2 more years to win.
Right.
I mean, you got Dexter Lawrence, you got AT, you got Okereke, you got Burns, right? Do we want to wait another 2 years of wear and tear on those guys to potentially win? Now, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Jaden Daniels, lightning in a bottle. CJ Stroud, lightning in a bottle. Joe Burrow, lightning in a bottle. You don't always strike that, right? You don't know if you're going to get that. So I think I'm leaning towards what John was talking about. Is like Stafford wins games. Now, Chris, internet rumors are crazy, right? I'm not really sure where they come from. I do laugh. I do get a good kick out of it, Chris. Tell me where this $50 million number came from. That was almost like somebody pulled it out of the ether. Like,
I don't know.
There's nothing on record saying that Matthew Stafford said, I need 50 or I'm not playing. Where did that come from?
I mean, who knows? Does that get leaked from the agent? Does that get leaked from Stafford's people? I mean, but when you look at $50 million and the fact that they're going to increase the salary cap right another $22 million, it doesn't mean that, let's say you wanted 3 years or even 4 years, doesn't mean it has to be $50 million every year, right? You get the guarantees, you get the way it's structured into a bonus, and then those first couple of years could be reduced, and then maybe there's an exit plan if he wanted year 4 to get out of that contract. But what I find interesting is with the combine, staring at us this week, we all focus on what's going to be going on in the field and behind the scenes in terms of the interviews. But I always find it fascinating that you're getting the GMs, you're getting the agents, and you're getting the coaches at one place. So it's going to be hearing any of the rumors or any of the stuff from the beat writers out there, the national beat writers like the Schefters and the Ian Rappaports, on what the conversations could be like between Les Snead, Joe Shane, McVay, and Dable. So I want to keep an eye on that this weekend to see if we hear any rumblings of what may be happening behind the scenes. Because for all we know, the fact that now they've allowed him to speak to other teams kind of says to me, maybe there is an offer on the table, and this could be a last-ditch effort on the behalf of the Rams to say, hey, there's the offer. What can you do better?
Can I just weigh in on that real quick too?
Yeah, please.
So before the trade deadline last year,
that offer was out there, right?
24th of October. The deadline was on Halloween. Before they played the Vikings, I had heard that the Giants were in trade discussions with the Rams to try to get Stafford, and that was confirmed by Jordan Renan today for ESPN. So
remember,
that source
they were
of
bad.
mine ended up being
bad back then to the Rams.
Their season flipped because when they beat the Vikings, they realized they were still and Stafford had a really good game in that game. So that sort of squashed that. So a different source told me 2 weeks ago that the Rams agent was looking for a 2-year deal with Stafford for $55 million guaranteed per year. So that would be 110 over 2 years guaranteed. Now, again, I can't vouch for these guys. I don't know if they're, I hear all kinds of things. I'm just the messenger, but that seems to be in line. This was 2 weeks ago. That seems to be in line with the $50 million per year that we're hearing now, and which I was told was guaranteed money. So again, I didn't have any expectation of what the money would be. I just heard that number, and now I'm hearing the $50 million from other people. So that seems to support what I heard 2 weeks ago too. So I think there's something there.
And Peter Schrager said some stuff today on Good Morning Football, basically laying out. And Schrager has connections. He does talk with the Rams folks. He's kind of close with McVay. And he was basically laying out that Stafford and McVay get along very well.
Yeah.
The deal is really with the Rams organization. They don't want to pay him the kind of money that he wants, which is why they're supposedly letting him talk. Now, I think, as was mentioned already, I think, Chris, you just mentioned it. I think the Giants know already what the Rams would want. And I think that part and really it's now dollars. If Stafford can find somebody that'll pay him the dollars, and the Rams, because you're not going to let a guy go around asking for the money if you can't even agree on any kind of compensation. You're just going to piss your quarterback off saying, go ahead and find a trade. Okay, I found somebody who'll pay me. Oh, they won't give us what we want. We're not doing this deal. So they've obviously been talking to other teams, and they know what they're asking for. I think the money, and it's really that adjusted value is what they keep saying, whatever it averages, you can have, it could be less in the first year, a good, a ton backloaded, but the average per year needs to be X. It's what Daniel lived off from, the average of 40, when in reality, the Giants considered it a 2-year contract. So I really believe if they can work out the dollars, I kind of get the sense, and we've been talking about it for a while, I just got a weird feeling this is going to happen, and I think it'll happen at the Combine. One thing that you said, Craig, that I want to mention, though, you remember you were just talking about the draft and catching lightning in a bottle?
Yep.
The 2 guys you mentioned, what is unique about both those guys? Neither one of them was the first quarterback taken. They were the second quarterback taken in that draft. So Daniels went after Williams. You had Stroud went after Young. So I don't want the Giants trading up to 1 to go get a guy. Just let it fall to you if that's the way it's going to go, because their history says you go after somebody, it's not going to work out.
Yeah, and we've talked a couple times about that scenario. If you're just not in love with them, or if it just doesn't feel right, well, guess what? Abdul Carter feels pretty right.
Yeah,
Ethan Graham feels pretty right. So it is tough because they need a quarterback, right? We know that. What's up, JT? We know they need a quarterback, right? But it's so hard to sit here and tell me that we're going to go potentially. We're going to win 3 to 4 games for the next 2 years until we can figure it all out. That's really hard to swallow if you're Dexter Lawrence or if you're Andrew Thomas, if you're
Neighbors.
Burns, all these guys.
Neighbors would be a big one.
Yeah. But at least Neighbors has youth on his side, right?
But he's not patient. He's not
he may not be patient, but he's under contract, right?
True.
These other guys are like this. Well, I've kicked the can down the road. I've restructured 2 times, right?
Right.
Like, I want to win ball games now. At the end of the day, if you're playing meaningful football in December, anything can happen, right? Anything can happen. Chris, what do we always laugh about, Chris? We're out of it by Halloween.
By
We're
October.
out of it by Halloween.
I've accepted the fact I'm saying meaningful games in September. It's not even October. It's September.
Exactly.
By game 5, it's pretty much, let's go to the tailgate and have a good time.
Yeah. So I'll give you a quick snapshot, guys. I've had season tickets in my family since 1968. So since 1986, 87, I've only missed 6 games. Okay. I drive in the snow and the rain and all that kind of stuff. I go to the games, just like Chris. Chris goes to the games. Regardless, there could be a hurricane. We're going to the game. When everybody's at home sleeping at nighttime, I live in South Jersey. I'm driving down a turnpike at 1 o'clock in the morning after a Monday night game like a menace on the road. I'm trying to get home, right? Because it takes me 2 hours after the game to get home in South Jersey. This year was the first time since I was a sophomore in high school that I willingly did not go to 2 games. Literally, it was like this. Yo, Chris, you going to the game? You're not going to the game either. I'm almost ashamed of myself. But
no, we
that's
see it
how
all.
bad it was.
We see it all the time on the site. So we got guys all ages. We got guys. Hell, we had. He's probably passed away now. We had guys that had to actually go back to almost the polo grounds, but even the old timers on the site are like, this is as bad, if not worse, than the 70s, and I can't take this anymore. So it's one thing to lose. We've all been through losing seasons. We've all been through losing periods. You can even look like back when Dave Brown was quarterback, but at least they were in the game and they would upset teams. And Dallas would come in as
had good defense.
Right, you had good defense.
Right. You at the end of the day, all those periods that you're talking about, the Danny Cannell, Dave Brown, Jesse Palmer, Kent Graham, there was someone on defense that you just were like, man, we still got Pepper Johnson. We still got Lawrence Taylor. We still got, who you name it, right? There was always like some defensive prowess.
Right.
But right now there's a gap, right, between, any real identity to this team. So again, to put a bow on it, the Stafford thing could happen. It does feel good. And if it's not, let's say it's not, doesn't work out, I still hope that it's at a minimum Wilson or Cousins or Carr. I just want someone to come in here and be a leader of men and have someone say, I'll go there for Russell Wilson. I want Russell Wilson throwing me the ball, or guys that want to come back to the Giants and help them be great again, 2 more years of losing is just going to be rough.
Right. Well, the ideal scenario, probably given where the Giants are, is the old 2004 Kurt Warner, Eli Manning scenario, where you got
or take
a guy come in as insurance policy in case the rookie's not ready, and then you slowly over time shift to the rookie. Where that would change a little bit with Stafford is if you're bringing in Stafford and you're giving him that money, that's going to be it's going to be 2 years. So the big debate is, to me, there's 2 things. One, there is speculation and rumors out there that Stafford's using the Giants and other teams just to set the market with the Rams. I don't know if that's true. I know John doesn't believe that. I'm not saying that's happening. I'm just saying, a lot of people on the outside looking in are going to be like, why the hell would Stafford want to leave the Rams and come to the Giants? And there must be an ulterior motive for that.
He doesn't have a trade clause. No trade clause.
Well, and I wouldn't be.
They can trade him anywhere they want.
But wouldn't you be shocked though if he sticks with the Rams? I wouldn't be shocked if Stafford sticks with the Rams. So like you said, Craig, we might have to. What's plan B? Is it a Kirk Cousins? Is it if Derek Carr becomes available? Johnny's even thrown out the idea of the Aaron Rodgers, that type of thing. But we obviously need a veteran as insurance. And then ideally, perfect world. This is the perfect world is, again, we get our version of Jaden Daniels. I don't know if we can do that in this draft. I don't know if that guy's there, and I don't know if we're going to be in position to do that. But that would be the perfect world, because this team isn't going to go anywhere long term until we get the quarterback position settled. Yeah. And we've got a problem in Washington, whether Giants fans want to admit it or not. That guy is damn good, let alone, let's not even forget the Eagles are going to be darn good again next year. Who knows what's going to happen in Dallas? But we got to get better in defense, no question, but we got to get our quarterback. So where do you get the quarterback?
And again, Chris, we've talked about it, right? How many weeks now? Eric, so your point's very well taken. But like I said, I don't know if the Giants can afford to lose for 2 more years.
No, they can't.
Right? So
they can't.
Realistically, just being 1,000% realistic,
right?
John, and you jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. It's Stafford 1, it's Cousins 2, right? It's Wilson 3, it's Carr 4. You only have a small amount of guys that could come in here and win games. The rest of these guys are just journeymen. They never won anywhere they were. Right. There's 4 guys that have won games that literally can be leaders of men and win you games.
I think we'll know very quickly which direction they're going in, meaning we are going to count on a veteran or we're counting on a rookie that we plan to get. And it all depends on who we bring. Veterans coming in, but you just mentioned it. Is it Stafford? Wilson, I guess, would be up there. Cousins, we don't know the deal with his contract yet, whether the Giants would be willing to take on that money. If he's even available, I wouldn't trade for him. I'd make them cut him. But then you got a Fields. Or then there's the other tier of guys, which I've also mentioned, depending on if the Giants are all in for a rookie, then you're looking at a Garoppolo, a Wentz, maybe Marcus Mariota. You're looking at one of those guys to support the rookie. 100%. I want the first tier. I want one in that first box.
Well, great, because he can win games, right? Exactly. It makes this year. And by the way, neighbors endorsing Stafford and Kupp goes a long way.
Oh, yeah. It's weird, too, because Daboll's got this strange sort of relationship with Neighbors. He's a dog, and I almost feel like Neighbors is actually saying stuff that he's been told off to the side. He's kind of giving a little too much away. This is your show, so I want to ask you guys real quick. No, I want to ask you guys, if Stafford's not the guy, which of the other veterans is the guy you would want? If you can't get Stafford, who would you want?
Chris, I'll let you go first. Go.
Yeah, Cousins intrigues me, but why would Cousins want to put himself in the same spot he was with Penix, knowing that they could be a guy drafted? I would go with the Derek Carr. His mobility, still got a big arm. He's due, I believe, $10 million on March the 5th or 4th, right before the new league year starts. So I see the Saints cutting him along with that big salary that they have to trim the fat. So I would take a Derek Carr. His mobility, arm strength. His brother played in New York. There's a lot of feedback there. There's a relationship with Eli, with his brother. So I would go with probably a Derek Carr.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is what you want and what's going to happen, right?
Right.
So part of me is I think Cousins is a baller. He wants to win at all costs, right? He can come in a locker room and change it like that and get people excited to play. he won again. The last, I don't know, 3 games, he did not look himself, and it turned out later he had a shoulder injury, right? And they talk about, the Achilles tendon. He just looked like he was laborsome, but the guy still won 7 games. We haven't won 7 games in the last 2 years combined, right? So if a washed-up Cousins, which I don't think the guy's washed up. I think he was hurt, or actually I know he was hurt. So if Cousins can come in here, be a leader of men, be inspirational, get people excited to play here, and he can win 7, 8, 9 games, I like that. But then, again, they'd have to cut him, right? There's a lot of dead cap money there. It's tied to it. He may have that gun shy, because remember, he was supposed to be the guy in Atlanta. Nobody knew Penix was going to fall into Atlanta's lap, right? So he may not want to get in that situation again. So looking at the other side of the coin, it is Carr, right? His brother played here. He would have a wingman, right? His brother would say, eat here, live here, shop here, go out here. Like, he's got somebody that knows the area to help him guide him through it. I think the Giants organization has a lot of good feelings about Carr backing up Eli all those years. He's a good model citizen. I think Carr would be a safe bet, but there's that wild card, and his name is Russell Wilson, who came here and they were like, "Hey man, you'd have to compete with Jones. It's Jones's job." And he didn't come. But we all know it is a fact that his wife loves New York. She's in the entertainment business. It does fit, from that standpoint. His wife wants to be here. He probably wanted to be here last year. So I wish I had an answer for you, because I find it's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. I don't like any of them more than the other one. I guess if I had to I like Cousins because when I look at the receivers he's thrown to, I mean, there's a laundry list of guys between the Redskins and the Vikings that he's thrown to, 1,000-yard receivers, right? Like, Derek Carr just doesn't have that resume as Cousins does. When you look at the comparing on the receivers that who he's had that chemistry with, it's Cousins over Carr, right? And then I don't know, is Wilson a little too bougie? Does he want to grind it out? I don't know. So I think if you're putting a gun to my head, I'm leaning a little bit more Cousins than the other two.
The whole thing is kind of weird, though, in this sense. So Dable had to know that he's playing with fire if he went into 2024 and Daniel Jones flamed out. And that's kind of what they did. And if I was Dable, I would have been, when Russell Wilson came into the building, I would have told my general manager, I don't know if he was listening, but I would have told my general manager, I want him competing for the starting job. I want him staying in the building. Now, I'm no big, huge Russell Wilson fan now. I wasn't earlier in his career. But,
I get where you're going.
But you had to have Drew Lock wasn't really – Drew Lock is Drew Lock, okay? So how much different would the season maybe have been if Russell Wilson was here and because look, let's be brutally honest. As soon as the Giants felt that they could bench Daniel, they did. And that Germany game was the end of the road. I mean, that flea flicker to me was a signature disaster play because that was pure Daniel Jones. He had 2 guys open and he took the sack. I mean, he could have. I mean, to me, that was all. That was the end of him.
Why are you making me relive this, Eric?
Yeah, I know, but they put themselves in that position, and I think we all agree that Dable came this close to losing his job. So, Craig, I'm agreeing with you. I don't think it's not just even the players don't want to go through another 3-win year. Dable will not survive another 3-win year. Shane probably might not survive another 3-win year. I just don't get how they handled the quarterback position these last few years. And they've got to get somebody in here so it's not like all their cards aren't on. I mean, it's not just one bet. They've got to have a vet. And depending on how the draft goes, I still think they've got to draft somebody someplace. I said the other day, hell, I wouldn't be against if it went this way. I don't think I don't know. I'm not sure it's going to go this way. Even if they did draft somebody at 3, a quarterback, I wouldn't be against them spending another draft pick at 3 or 4 on a quarterback. The Commanders, the Redskins did that. They did it with Kirk Cousins. We talked about this on our other show. When they drafted Griffin, they hit Cousins. When they took Schuler, they took Farrat.
Yeah.
In both cases, the second guy ended up being better than the first guy. Oh, well, Griffin got hurt, but so they've got, I know the audience is going to get tired of this, but everything depends on the quarterback at this stage. I mean, they've got to get a quarterback.
Well, let's put a bow on this. I will tell you that this is no excuse for the Giants because, again, it's painful. And I write my check every year, and I'm like, son of a bitch, why am I doing this? but like, you think about it, like Jones has a good year, then he gets hurt. So they're like, well, he just got hurt. You got to give him another year. Then he comes back and has a good year. Then he gets hurt again, and you're like, damn it, got to give him another year. Like, it's almost like it played out perfectly to his advantage and nobody else's. Honestly, like nothing against Daniel, good dude. But it worked out perfectly for him because he got paid and then he didn't have to produce the whole next year because he got hurt with a neck and a concussion and a shoulder and the knee. Like, so, we were just dumb enough to hang on. That was our, you know what I mean? So putting a bow on that one. Appreciate you guys' thought on that. Let's keep moving. By the way, everybody, like you guys are blowing up the chat. I see you guys in there. And some you guys make me laugh with some of these points. Let's talk about something that was near and dear to me. I'm sure it's near and dear to you. So I want to change gears on you a little bit. There's a wide receiver that played for the New York Giants, which we all love. Might have been one of the better wide receivers to ever wear Giants blue. Is selling a piece of Giants history. So I saw it. I cringed and was like, that can't be true. But evidently it's true. Plaxico Burress selling his Super Bowl ring.
Oh, that is true, huh? That's true.
That's everything I can see.
And I'm got like $280,000 for it.
Yeah.
So John,
it got sold. It got sold.
Yeah.
Yes.
Real Cold G just said, "Yep, it already got sold."
Cold. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cold knows, man. Cold is the OG. He's on this stuff. John, why? How? And did you put a bid in for it?
Yeah, a little bit out of my price range on that one.
You didn't take out that second mortgage, John?
Yeah, no, I talked to the wife about it, and then we stayed married, so no, we didn't.
John's wife's like, sure, you can bid on that, but you better have another. You better take a bigger loan out and get a second house.
I'm telling you, right? It's hard to believe that what holds nostalgia or meaning to us seems to doesn't always apply to the players themselves per se. Now, Plax has had a number of financial issues over the years. He's had other legal issues and stuff. So maybe he needed the money. Lawrence Tynes posted a thing on X basically saying he's worn his Super Bowl ring maybe 5 times, and he understands, he knows other players that have done the same thing. But I know, like Bobby Johnson back in the day, he hawked his ring. He needed money. He had a lot of problems. He had a lot of drug problems, other things. Turned his life
around. They got it back for him.
Ultimately, somebody bought it back. Yes, and they got it back to him. Yeah, that's that, and that had such a meaning. So I wonder, he might need something now to take care of it, but 10 years from now, 15 years from now, looking back, is he going to regret that moment of history? Really, because I mean, that is the biggest touchdown catch in Giant history.
Yeah, and by the way, so I live in South Jersey now, but when I lived in North Jersey, I went to DePaul High School where his son goes, right? His son now is committed to Notre Dame, right? Like, I would think that, like, that would be I guess the word would be like an heirloom. Like, I want to pass that on to my kid and be like, hey man, go get your own, but this is what it looks like. You know what I mean? And, and pass it on to him. Because his son's going to go play for Notre Dame, right? He's winning state championships at DePaul. I'm sure his kid would probably be like, yeah, Dad, like, let's hold on to that thing. But, and again, it could be financial, but I mean, I don't know. It's rough to see that go.
Sad.
Chris,
sad.
Did you see it?
Sad. So I just remember that morning I got up, turned on my computer as I app to do to check the news.
Yeah.
And said, Giants wide receiver shoots himself. And I'm like, what?
Shot the 2008.
Am I dreaming? What's going on? And I click on the link and I'm like, you got to be blanking kidding me, because you guys remember what was going on that season. We had a real chance in that year to do some damage. We had issues on the defensive line that caught up with us too. But Plaxico shooting himself that
better team than 2007. Yeah,
it was better.
By far.
And it hurt us in the playoff game again because Plax was you say anything you will about Plax, he killed the Eagles. He was an Eagle killer, and they hated him for that. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 games. every time he went against the Eagles, it would seem like Plax is the one that killed them. It's just sad. It's just I saw that story. I thought, I hope that's not true. So it's
yeah.
I'll tell you a quick story. I've told this story before on the show. Chris knows the story. So I used to work for the Eagles radio network down here in Philly. So the sister station to WFAN. So I worked for WIP.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd gotten this from a former player, what actually happened and how it went down, which is very crazy when you think about it. So you remember Steve Smith, correct?
Oh yeah,
Sure.
So week before Plaxico gets shot, back then they used to all go to the meatpacking district to go out, right? That was the spot. That was the hot spot, right? And the NFL has a car system that you can call so you don't drink and drive, that the car system from the NFL would go pick you up, drive you where you want, and bring you home. Basically Uber before there was Uber.
Yeah.
Okay. So Steve Smith gets picked up by the NFL car driver, brings him into the in New York, party, do whatever they got to do, calls him back, guy picks him up, brings him home, gets him to his house, opens up the door, and at gunpoint says, I need the money, the watch, the earrings, the chain, and like that. So Steve Smith's wearing like a $10,000 necklace. He's got rings. He's got a big, Rolex Breitling watch on. He's got a couple grand in his pocket for cash, right?
Jesus.
So here he's like, gets robbed by the NFL car service, right? So the very next weekend, Plaxico's like, well, guess what? That's not happening to me.
Oh man.
So again, wearing a track suit, right? Out at night.
The Glock.
He's got the gun in his waistband. Yeah. They don't frisk him. They just bring him through, right? And as he's coming through the whatever you want to call it, the metal detector, right?
Yeah.
It slips down his pants and shoots him in the leg. Antonio Pierce standing right next to him. Shoots himself in the leg. But only carrying the gun because Steve Smith had gotten held up the week before.
I never heard that before. So what if, that one thing led to the other thing? So
the second part of that story is, to your point, Eric, was I was friendly with two defensive backs from the Eagles, both all pros, both great players. And one of them said because we used to do a show with Andy Reid, and then when Andy Reid left, it was the Andy Reid's coaches show. It was called. When Andy Reid left, we made it into Brian Dawkins show, and then when Dawkins left, it became the Sheldon Brown show. When Sheldon left, it became the Lito Shepherd show, and so on, right? And I asked Sheldon and Lito, who were number 1 draft pick, number 2 draft pick in the same class, right? Who was the hardest receiver they ever had to cover, and both of them simultaneously Plaxico Burress.
Yeah. It's a damn shame. So maybe he'll get the ring back someday. We'll see. But
yeah, as Cold said in the comments, it is his to do what he wants, right? It is his. Right. He's got all the prerogative to do it. But sucks, piece of history, right?
Not directly related to that story, but years ago we interviewed Steve Smith, and I don't know if even Eric remembers this. We did the interview, and Pat Hanlon actually set it up for us to be able to get Steve on. So we were interviewing Steve. It was in the off season, and when we finished the interview, I swear to God, every comment I got was, holy cow, that guy was so high. I mean, every answer he gave us was kind of like, I don't know where this is going.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. Oh, it was so bad. And I was like, people were like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. I mean, it was like, man, I don't know. I was like, okay.
I don't remember that.
Oh my God, it was hysterical.
You're saying Steve Smith was like that?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I remember him on. I just don't remember him being like that. So that's funny. Okay.
Let me ask you guys about the upcoming draft.
Okay.
I'm a big proponent of identity. We had a real with one of the other co-hosts, Sean, when he was on last week, and Chris. We were making this debate that we're not known for anything. We're not run for smash mouth defense. We're not known for having a high octane offense. We're not known for ground and pound. We're not known for anything. This offseason has the opportunity right in front of Joe Shane and Dabes to create some identity, literally resetting the table if they wanted to. So I wanted to ask you guys what you thought of going very heavy on defense or offense. Because let's say if we look at defense, you could draft Abdul Carter you could add on a DJ Reed or a Ward from San Francisco for a QB for CB1, moving Banks to 2, have Carter or even Mason Graham right next to Dexter. And all of a sudden, now you're starting to get this semblance of a really, top 10, top 12 defense, right? Burns, Okereke, McFadden, Carter, Tibbs, right? And then Ward or Reed on one side, right? You're starting Newbin's back healthy. All of a sudden, you got this powerhouse defense. Or, as Sean was alluded to, he wants a high-octane offense. Like, do you draft Sanders, go get T. Higgins, draft sign Trey Smith from Kansas City. So what's your thought on I guess the word would be doubling down would be the best word to look at it, right? Double down this offseason free agency and in the draft on one side of the ball. John, I'll start with you.
Okay. So the first part is, again, just to tie it back to the beginning, it all really dictates on what I do at quarterback. That's why I want Matthew Stafford, but we discussed that. That opens the door for a lot of things.
Yep.
We went through, Eric and I went through a list of possible free agents. We did a free agent preview, and it's really, there are a lot more possibilities that we could see on defense that would make sense to sign than there are really on offense free agent wise to sign. You already mentioned it. Reed would be one. I think you're probably going to look at him. I think Murphy's going to be too expensive at corner, but you might look at that. We might get a D tackle for us just to not have to be solely saying, I got to draft the guy there. I want to get some, but I don't necessarily want to have to be pigeonholed at the top of the draft to take one. If I go my route and I get the quarterback I want, I sign a couple of guys to help. Corner is a huge need, way more of a need than a lot of people seem to think. I mean, Banks, I can't stand Banks. Banks stinks. I'm just done with Banks. We need a legit number one corner. In the draft, I would love Carter, but I would also be okay with dropping down. I want to get a few extra picks. I want Kenneth Grant out of Michigan if that's the case. I want a huge 340-pound tackle to play right next to Dexter Lawrence, a guy who can play. He can rush the passer some, but will be a massive improvement in that run defense with Lawrence. I want to get another D tackle even a little bit later, and then I want another cornerback so I'm going to sign one in free agency. I'm definitely drafting one within those first 3 rounds. I want a corner.
So you're leaning heavy D.
Heavy D.
I'm cool with that. I'd rather be known for something. Sean's real heavy on the offensive side, which is cool, right? Or just be known for something. Give me a high octane offense. Give me a smash mouth D. Give me something. I don't, if they went out and got Stafford, right? And you brought in a T. Higgins or a Cooper Kupp, that changes a lot of stuff. But if you gave me Trey Smith and you gave me Stafford, I'd be very happy with that. Eric, jump in. Do you have a preference on what side, where they go?
I'm an old guy. I'm a defense guy. But before I go to the defense, I will say this about the offense. They haven't had an identity anywhere. So going into the off season, we all saw this on Hard Knocks too, which PR-wise ended up being a disaster for the Giants. John and I have talked about this over and over again. We understand it was much of it was choreographed, but boy, I'd be shocked if any NFL team ever again wants to do that in the off season, because it backfired tremendously on them. But we saw that they were going to move away from the run, and they wanted neighbors. They got Theo Johnson, a pass-catching type. Even though he's a big dude from Penn State, he's still more of a pass catcher. We know about Wan'Dale. They had high hopes for Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton being there. You had visions of this 4-wide with the athletic tight end, the pass-blocking offensive line, because they got Runyon in free agencies, more pass blocker. So, but their idea was to throw the football with Daniel Jones as your quarterback, which didn't work out. Most of us thought it wouldn't work out. John and I were kind of, probably because we were wearing our blue color glasses, we were hoping it would work out, and our predictions were way optimistic because we thought he might get 22, 25 touchdown passes, and maybe it just didn't work out. So their identity was to throw the football, but they didn't have a quarterback. So that gets back to your point. What the hell was their identity? I am so tired of the defense being bad for so long. I had to go back today. It's funny that you brought it up. I had to go back and look at the defensive coordinators we've had since John Fox was here. And if you take out John Fox and you take out Spags, the 2 stints Spags here, it's been a disastrous run of defensive coordinators for the Giants. And I'm not even just talking about Bowen and Martindale, but you're talking about guys like Betcher and Christ, I can't even think of all the guys that were there. Bill Sheridan. I mean, all these. There are all these guys. I mean, they were only there 2 years or 3 years, and it was over. You know, even Perry Fuel, his defense wasn't good. And people forget the 2011 Giants. They finished almost dead last in the NFL. They got hot in the playoffs, and they were awesome in the playoffs, but they stunk in the regular season. So I am so tired of other teams running up and down the field on us. I'm so tired of teams passing the ball on us. I want to get back to I can survive losing, but what I can't survive is losing and being a wimpy team. Getting physically outplayed, pushed around, and I can't stand the Eagles. But the Eagles know what they're doing. They're really good up front on both sides of the football, and you saw that in the Super Bowl. They punished the shit out of the Kansas City Chiefs. I want that on the Giants, and they got to get back to that. And so I'm kind of with John and you. I want I think the free agent class is deeper on defense, and I would double down everywhere, almost kind of like the old Giants did in the '86 draft. The Giants were really good in defense in the mid '80s, and they had a first-round draft pick in '86 and 4 second-round picks, and all of them went to defense. And that just propelled that defense. So I want to get back to just beating the crap out of other teams. If we're going to lose, I want to do it with I want to make the other team know they played us.
Yeah, some swagger. Because, like, I tell you, you know, this might be a taboo thing to say in front of you two guys, but, like, I'm just not a Tibbs guy. Right?
Oh, you kidding me? I am down on Tibbs more than anybody. He's
more than anybody. Come on, John, get consistent here.
I don't like Tibbs.
I think about Abdul Carter, who's a big. I'm a Big Ten guy for the record. Okay, so I'm a Big Ten guy. It's cold. They're nasty. Those boys can play. Abdul Carter on the other side from Burns gets me excited. Mason Graham playing next to Dexter Lawrence gets me excited. Right? Like. But when I think of, like, we go all offense and I got to depend on good old Tibbs, I'm like, oh, man. Yeah. Like, maybe we should just bust out some wardrobe pictures again and throw those up on the jumbo screen and call it a day. Like, I don't know. Chris, help me out here, Chris. You know it's true. My man looks good before the game starts and then nothing happens.
Yeah, I mean, Tibbs to me has become a situational player, right? I mean, I want him to pass rush, but setting the edge seems to be an issue, right? Against the run has been a problem. But when you look at an Abdul Carter, what won me over with a guy like that was against Notre Dame. Guy playing with one arm, still rushing to passer, could have sat out that game, right? And just said, I'm going to get ready for the draft. That showed me a lot. Guy playing injured in a game where he's going to be making a lot of money a couple months down the road and still play.
There's something about Carter that is so different than Thibodeau, and I know I'm invoking the name of a great one. So
don't bring up.
Please forgive me. Again. No, I'm going to. LT. The one thing about LT. Hell, my daughter's initials are after LT. By the way, one thing about LT that set him apart. He was not a big trainer. He didn't lift weights at all. He didn't do a lot, but his flexibility, his ability to get almost parallel to the ground, to dip under the tackle. Look at Carter and what he does. He changes the angle of his body as he pass rushes. What does Thibodeau do? Nothing. He's a straight line rusher. If he does move around, it's a very stiff around. He's the classic almost guy. He almost got there for a big play. He almost made it. He collects sacks, but over the season, you tell me which one was impactful, minus the Washington sack in his rookie year with the fumble recovery touchdown. Other than that, what was his most impactful play?
Probably the Baltimore game, right? Against when the Giants beat Baltimore a couple years ago with Lamar Jackson. Guess. Yeah. That would probably be it. That was an impactful. But those two, right? I mean, you're talking about a couple plays.
Right, and that's it. Rookie year, and that's it.
What's weird though is if you look at his stats. They're not bad, but but
that's the thing.
Hard to remember them. You know, you're like, wait, how the hell did he get that many sacks? I don't remember him getting those sacks.
Well, is it like a baseball player hitting home run when they're down 6-2 and they lose the game?
But here's the thing: he's not a bad player.
No, that's exactly it.
He doesn't have the motor okay, that makes you say when you need him, like, listen, we watched it. Again, talking about LT, like, you'd be like this, man, we need a play. LT just knew situationally he needed to go make a play.
Right.
Like, I've watched Brian Burns run guys down from behind, not giving up on a play. And I'm like, I like this guy. I'm glad he's here, right? He wants to win. He's angry. He's fighting through. He's playing hurt. Chris tell me every week, Burns is hurt, still playing. Chris, who's on the probable list?
Oh,
Burns.
yeah.
Right?
We were at training camp. In training camp,
Yeah,
he
Burns
had
probably should have been playing a lot of games.
Yeah, Chris, we saw him get hurt at camp. We were at camp and we
were at the scrimmage against the Lions. He walked off the field, and next thing you know, he's in a few plays later. Like, all right, I hope they're doing the right thing. But he wanted to come back.
The guy's got moxie, and I don't like I said, like from the stat wise, no, you're right, Eric. Tibbs stats are like they're not bad.
And you know what else, guys? I think so. Oh, sorry, Kurt.
No, go.
No, I think from a selfish point of view, we saw the Giants pass up on Micah Parsons for Tony, and we see Carter almost like that other Micah Parsons who could be that type of player. And if he's there, you hate to happen twice to pass up on that type of guy.
If Thibodeau was a third-round pick, we would be okay with him. The problem is he was the 5th overall selection in the draft. You expected him. The Giants really. Again, you create your own luck, but they had horrible luck with that draft. There was no quarterback in that draft. None. There was no, that's the Purdy draft, wasn't it? Was it? No. Who got drafted at quarterback in that draft? It was whatever it was, a very weak.
It might have been Herbert.
That's the 20 draft, and the Giants should.
Oh, that's right. But I don't think there were any quarterbacks at all in that Evan Neal Thibodeau draft. So there was bad luck there. And Neal and Thibodeau, for much of the season, they were like 1 and 2 on everybody's list. So when the Giants drafted them, let's be honest here, most Giants fans were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we got."
Pickett's the guy. Pickett's the guy.
And Neal has been as big a bust as there's ever been in Giants history to date. And Thibodeau, I don't think he's a bust, but he just doesn't. So what's really going to be interesting, I don't think this will happen because I think Carter is going to go before our pick. But this would be real. This is where I would break my remote at this point. What if Carter's there and they don't draft a quarterback and they draft another player because Shane won't admit the mistake because Shane won't admit the mistake on Thibodeau. That's the only reason why you don't do that. You don't draft Carter in that situation. If Carter's there at 3
you take him.
You take him. But if Shane doesn't because he doesn't want to admit the mistake on Thibodeau, then I got a major problem.
You're killing me.
Yeah,
you are
that's a good point. That's optics. That's optics right there.
Yeah.
The Giants might tip their hand, though, a little bit. Again, if they are thinking Carter might be a possibility, they can drag out picking up Thibodeau's 5th-year option all the way past the draft. They've got until the beginning of May to pick that up.
That's a great point.
If they pick it up immediately, they're all in on Thibodeau. They're okay with another full year of him being there. We still might get Carter, but they have no plans really moving on.
Well, then you trade him though too. Once you trade him,
that gives you the ability to do that. But I'm saying is they can drag it out, right? They don't have to do it right away. And I feel like that's Thibodeau to me is a guy that you can win with if we've got a lot of other players elsewhere. If you've got more people taking up things, he'll beat his one-on-one every now and then. But right now, we looked for a guy. What we were hoping for is not necessarily LT, but we were hoping for like a combination of an OC Tuck, somebody who would come in, a JPP kind of combo guy that would get a pass rush, would change games. He's a collector of stats in losing seasons, and I hate stats in losing seasons. They mean nothing.
Yes, and listen, I'm going to throw this up here because he's in Tibbs was 11th in pass rush win rate. No offense, I don't give a shit about pass rush win rate. The guy doesn't come to play and change the game. He can't set the edge. He's got one move, right? He's a little bit on the soft side. He collects a lot of stats. The New York Giants don't have the luxury of having a player like that. To your point, John, is if they had a guy next to Dexter pushing the pocket up the middle of the field, Tibbs looks great. Right. But you need this guy to play like, out of this world because of where they picked him, how long he's been on the team. He should be a leader. All these things that he should be that he's not. So I don't care about pass rush win rate. That's some bullshit thing they made up. So we buy baseball cards, football cards, and talk about PFF stats. At the end of the day, you get paid to finish.
Right. It means nothing. Yes, he might have gotten pressure, but guess what? He didn't get the sack. He didn't get the play. That's the part that I hate. That's a made up stat so you can prove where you fit.
Yes.
You know, if I'm trying to negotiate my contract, well, I won. I was 11th in pass rush. Great. You have 10 total sacks. I don't care. You didn't set a game one time. You didn't set the game on its ear. The game I keep thinking about where he could have, and he was so damn close, was the year before against the Jets, where we ultimately lose in overtime because we don't have a quarterback at that time who can even throw a goddamn pass. And he got through multiple times and missed late sacks in the game that allowed them to come down and kick that field goal. He's an almost guy.
That's a good way to put it. I will say what Chris said, though, too, is what's frustrating is you see every now and then, like the Commanders game, where he took over that game, the one where he got the touchdown. But it wasn't just that play; he was all over the field in that game, against the run, against the pass. But the Ravens game that Chris brought up too, when he sealed that win in the Meadowlands, and you see it, and you're like, all right, he's arrived. That's the guy that we drafted, and then it disappears. And it disappears again. So I'm a little bit more patient than John. John is likely going to end up being correct about Deonte Banks. He's probably going to end up being right about Kayvon, but I still want to see both these guys again. They got a new defensive back coach. Let's see how this plays out with Deonte. If Deonte is grabbing people like he did at the end of last year, sayonara. Kayvon, you can win with. I think you can do better. If Carter's there, I'm drafting Carter, and I'm not doing the fifth-year option, or I'm trading Tibbs at that point. That's what I'm doing. What I'm a little bit worried about is, again, it's the PR element. Dave Syvertson's talked about this before. That ego is an issue with general managers around the league and coaches. They don't like to admit the mistakes. So if you draft Carter, you're admitting to the mistake of a horrific draft in 2022 where your 2 top 7 draft picks ended up being washouts. So I would do it. I'm hoping Shane's ego doesn't get in the way.
Well, let's put a bow on the Tibbs thing. Here's what I can tell you is we all know that we ran NASCAR, in 2011. Yeah. So there's if they've got, again, Tibbs is a nice player if you got to push up front. If it's, let's just hypothetically say it's Mason Graham and Dexter Lawrence up the middle, Tibbs is great. He's gonna get a lot of, he's not gonna get chipped.
And Burns.
Right? Yeah, he's gonna. Well, Burns, I have faith in Burns. I like Burns. Right.
You know what I'm saying? But if you got Burns too, in addition to those two guys,
100%. Tibbs will get a pass. And if you had a whoever they draft for them, there's like 20 defensive tackles that are worth drafting in the first 2 rounds. Whoever's playing next to Dexter, if you have push up the middle, Tibbs is great. Hypothetically, and I'll wrap this up and we'll keep moving, is if I keep Tibbs and draft Carter, now I'm running NASCAR all day with Dexter, Burns, Thibodeau, and Carter. Stop that. Tell me how you're going to stop that with a 325-pound slow dude, and you have to pick who you're going to actually block. And then, of course, McFadden, O'Kerrick can both blitz in the A gap up the middle. So again, and then of course, Carter can play inside too. I don't think that's what they would want him to do, but I guess to wrap it up is that they don't have to trade or cut Tibbs if they want to play faster type of defense. You never have enough pass rushers, right?
Right. And pass rush helps mask your weakness in the secondary too.
Yeah. I'm not paying $16 million a year for it, which is what his 5th-year option is. So John's point is actually the best. You draft Carter, you can string that along for quite some time, right? To see what happens.
But you got to stop the run. To get to the quarterback. That's what's driving me crazy. And and like you said, we'll tie a bow on this, but we got to stop the run.
And we're going to be okay there, Eric, because again, in that second round, there are 20 defensive tackles that can help this team that are going to get drafted in the first and the second round.
What if Shane trades away that second rounder, though? That's what I'm worried about. That's what I'm worried. The strength of this draft, I think, is the second round. I do not want to give up that
Yeah,
second
no,
round.
hold up. Let me just help you with that. If we trade the second round pick, that means we have Matthew Stafford. That means we don't have to stay at 3. We drop down. I feel like the best move and why it makes so much more sense. Like I said before, so I know if you've heard it, I'm rehashing a thing I said. He's not a Band-Aid. He's an antibiotic for the crap that we've been dealing with. And if we can trade down, pick up some extra picks, this draft is not necessarily top heavy with super talent, but it's got a load of guys in the middle that are going to be role players or really good, solid starters for teams. And the Giants need both.
John, what's your worst case scenario though? He trades away the. We don't
get Stafford, and that idiot trades up to number 1 just to take the quarterback.
There you go. He trades away the number 1 and the 2 to get Shedeur Sanders at the first pick. I mean, again, and I'm not knocking Shedeur. So people, I have not made my mind up on him. I have not made up my mind on him. But the worst case scenario in my mind is them panicking and trading up the 1. I would not do that in any scenario.
Well, let's do this. I got 2 more topics to throw your way. Chris, I'm going to start it off because this is your expertise as the roster.
I don't know about that. Or don't hit me with that. Come on. All right, go ahead.
Anybody knows?
All right, we'll see.
Transitions, rosters, coaches. We got to talk about Liddell Betts coming in from Iowa, going to be the new running back coach. Used to coach Tracy. Seems like a really good spot. I'm super excited about it. What's your thoughts, Chris, on bringing in Betts?
The interesting part about Betts was he was the running back in the 2007 season when Washington went 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 at the goal line. Antonio Pierce. So how ironic, he's one of the coaches now. Tyrone Tracy was a receiver at Iowa when Betts was the running back coach. So they didn't cross each other at Iowa as a position coach. But I don't really know other than much is that, listen, he worked for Ferentz, right? Ferentz is a good coach. So that carries some clout, and he's got his son on the staff. So I'm willing to trust the move. And I like the fact that he was a running back in the league. He knows how the NFL game is played in the running back position. And he was a hard runner, if you do remember him being that spot player. So yeah, I think it's a good move. John, and they jumped on it fairly quickly, which is good because only a couple of days ago they lost the running backs coach. So that was good that they didn't waste any time and they targeted and identified the guy they want.
What about you, John? What's your thoughts on Liddell Betts?
I honestly, I don't really have any deep thoughts on this guy. What bothers me is just how much we've churned the staff over constantly under Daboll. We've moved people around, and last year's bad, the really bad part about it is Daboll said, I'm going to, he didn't really say it till the very end. I am going to be the play caller. I'm calling the plays. And your offense was so bad. Now we're not going to do that this year. You keep changing guys out. You hold Mike Kafka hostage. I don't really know what it is. I mean, either you hate this guy so much, to get out of here, right? You either hate him so much, or you're just like he's a wealth of knowledge, and you're afraid he'll go somewhere else and just really just light it up and say, "What were you doing with him?" Either way, that poor guy can't leave here. Yep. It's odd. Betts he's a good coach. I mean, he was a player in the league. I mean, I can't thank him enough for being stopped on the 2 runs back in 2007. So there's that.
All right, fair enough. Because I'm just glad that, again, I like a younger guy, younger coach, lived it, played it. Like and he's already got a history with Tracy, so that's got to be good for Tracy, right? Because I mean, what a great draft pick that turned out to be. Right. And now you're going to bring in his college coach. Like, I mean, seems like a great fit.
Nice.
Well, don't forget, we also have an assistant coach who's Matt Stafford's brother-in-law. So, we're making connections with people.
Connecting the dots. That's right.
Yeah. Conspiracy 101 on Rush.
We have 3 coaches now that were with Ferentz in Iowa. So there's a connection. There is a connection there. So, but I just echo what John said. It's a little unusual that now in 4 years, we've had 4 running backs coaches, and they've all sort of, I think one left for college, maybe both. So what's weird to me about this last one is he was 9 years with the Saints. He left the Saints in a lateral move to come to the Giants, was here a year, and then decided to go back to the Saints under a new regime there.
But they made him the offensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken.
And it came awfully late. I'm sorry, what was that?
I think they made him the OC.
No, he's a running backs coach there. So it was a lateral move. Well, I'm not 100%, but it was originally reported that, unless I missed that, it was a lateral move. I thought, John, wasn't it?
It's hard to, I can't remember.
I'd have to look that up. If that's changed, I apologize.
It is weird to go back to the ship. So either he thinks the Giants are a sinking ship, or the sinking ship of the Saints isn't sinking as fast as the Giants ship. I don't know.
Well,
or taking a step further, like you mentioned before, that maybe Dabes and Neighbors has this unique relationship where they're working the narrative. Think about it from Tracy's point of view. Coach, if you could get my guy, I'd love to work with my guy. He sees how good Tracy is. Maybe maybe it was like, wouldn't matter what that guy was going to do. And the writing was on the wall that they would rather have bets,
right?
Or they would rather have because sometimes these guys talk. Hey, coach, I'd really like that guy.
Well, and we should be an extremely young running back group. Because Singletary will be there, but there's no guarantee. They could move on from Singletary. I doubt it. But everybody else, Tracy's there. We don't know if Gray's going to stay or not. I'm sure they're going to draft the guy at some point, or at least sign an undrafted guy because we need more depth. So yeah, Gray.
Well,
Gray's got to go.
And also Tracy, when he was at Iowa, was a wide receiver. So the coach didn't directly coach him. He was on the same team, but they weren't. So just throw that out there too.
By the way,
I'm sorry.
How insane is that a guy can do that?
It's amazing. When you think look, if he can fix the fumbling problems, what a steal he is. Because I went back and looked at his highlights, and he was even better than I remembered in the year. But for a guy to be that instinctive as a running back who's hardly even played the position, he's really just naturally instinctive. If he's just got to get that high and tight Tiki Barber thing going there. But if he can pan out, and this is a really, really deep running back class, so I could see the Giants taking another running back later in the draft and really having a strong running back group too.
And maybe even a running back from Iowa he's a pretty solid dude. He's probably going to be in the 4th, 5th round area. It's going to be a possibility.
And John, to your point, Singletary, I think, is a cap hit of like $6 million or $5 million. So he's probably going to be sticking around. But then it creates that, is Gray going to stick around? And then you have that Turbo Miller, who's on the practice squad, who I'm surprised didn't get more playing time when the team wins 3 games. And he doesn't really come up, other than after the season, they protect him by adding him to the roster the last game of the season.
Right.
Which was a pretty obvious move, right?
I got to give a plug because this new list I'm going to read you was a plug that I read on Twitter today. I can't take credit for it. So one of our followers, good dude, I follow him. It's a Veda Fly. Okay, so I'm going to read a list that he wrote today. Right, I'm going to give you a list of quarterbacks. I want you to kind of grasp what this list is. Drake May, Daniels, Caleb, Kyler, Bryce Young, Derek Carr, Teddy, Manziel, Luck, RG3, Tannehill, Osweiler, Gabbert, Bradford, Tebow, Stafford, Ryan, and Russell. There are others, but that's in the most recent history. Eric, I'm going to start with you. Do you know what that list is?
Well, I assume it's the quarterbacks that are options this offseason, right? Or
no, if Jamarcus Russell was an option this offseason, we'd have.
Okay, I missed that.
Well, we do have holes on the offensive line.
Okay. While you're reading out that list, I was trying to find out where if the coach was the offensive coordinator. So I didn't
got it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to throw it at you, John. John, any idea what that list may be? Do you need me to read it again? Because I can't.
Yeah, if you could, because I heard Osweiler's name in there, and that really threw me off.
Okay, ready? Drake May, Daniels, Caleb, Kyler, Bryce Young, Derek Carr, Bridgewater, Manziel, Luck, RG3, Tannehill, Osweiler, Gabbert, Bradford, Tebow, Stafford, Matt Ryan, and Jamarcus Russell. Any idea what that list is of?
God damn. They're all.
I need the Jeopardy theme. Zach, you got a Jeopardy thing here? Zach?
Some of them are not high. They're definitely not. Russell was a number 1 pick. So, but some of them are not. I was thinking they were the 3rd, but Murray was a number 1 pick. May was 3rd.
I'll give you a hint. You're going in the wrong direction. You want me to tell you?
They all have losing. No, I don't know.
Shawnee B might have it on the.
All right, there is a guy in the. Let me give him credit because he did get it. K-Max got it. Those are a list of quarterbacks that did not throw at the combine. So, which leads us to the fact that Sanders isn't going to throw at the combine. I don't really think it's a big deal. These guys have pro days. Some people call you crazy and soft, and you want to throw it under, perfect conditions to your guys. I don't feel that way. I don't really care. However, when I do read that list back a couple times, I'm like, the only really great players on this list, is Stafford, Matt Ryan, and Andrew Luck.
Well, I think you got to put Murray on the list. He's not great, but he's been a good quarterback. If he was with better players and a little bit, he had a little bit of health issues, but that dude was making plays early on in his career. He's got a gun for an arm. So he had nothing to prove. I don't worry about them throwing. What I do want is the measurements for a lot of these quarterbacks, because the throwing is so look at Richardson for Indy. Everybody was like, look at the way he's throwing in the dome when he had his workout. He was and everybody's like, oh, he's got to be. Guy can't read defenses. He's horrible at deciding what to do with the ball. But just throwing to guys in shorts means nothing to me. But I do want to see how legit are they in terms of height. When you say they're 6'2", are they really 6'2", or is he barely over 6 feet? The hand thing doesn't bother me so much until you talk about Milrose being the smallest hands that they've seen at quarterback, because that leads to fumbles.
Yeah. So, and by the way, we had Syverson on 2 weeks ago. I know you guys are friendly with him too. Yep. He said he was very professional about it. Chris, right? Super professional. But he said Milroe, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, that Milroe did not look good at the Senior Bowl at all, between the footwork, being able to hand the ball off, just really would have benefited to stay at school.
Getting under center. Yeah.
Which is really telling, because Cy was really high on Milroe before the season started. Yes. So Cy's opinion on him has changed pretty radically. So it's not Milroe. The problem with Milroe is the Giants can't afford that kind of development project right now. The time horizon's too short. It's what Craig was saying. We got to win now. You can't.
And Eric, listening to Dave talk about his footwork, like how clunky it was and how he almost doesn't know how to hand the ball off from being under center, it was like a red flag. He was painting a very alarming picture to me. If you were like, hey, I'm getting this guy in the second round, you're like, this guy's not going to play for 4 years. It's just not there.
Yeah, and Dave saw him Senior Bowl week, right? I mean, that was a lot of that big right up close. So
and it might have been your show that I saw with Cy, or what Cy's been making the rounds. He's pretty popular right now. But I think it was Cy who said, and this kind of scared me. He said a lot of these quarterbacks now don't know how to take a snap from under center.
Yep.
And when they do in these all-star games, they look terrible.
Yeah.
Because they don't.
I had brought up, sorry, Eric, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
If it was you guys, kudos for bringing it up, because it was a really interesting point.
You know what? Again, I can't take credit for any of this stuff, because I saw an interview with Greg Olson. Mm-hmm. And Greg Olson was saying that because at the high school level, because he's coaching his high school son now, and he was saying because the high schools have basically mimicked what the colleges are doing, and then now the pros are mimicking what the colleges are doing, that no one goes under center anymore. So it kind of like makes it hard to run play action. It's hard to run RPO and deceive people with the ball, because they just don't have the skill set, and the college coaches don't care because they just want to win. So they're not really developing players like, they did 10 years ago. The game has just changed. So some of these guys like Milroe, who should be ready to go, you can't put him under center at all, right? Like, it's just like that the project is the curve is too long, right? Like you're gonna have to wait 3 years for Milroe to be able to do it. So anyway, I appreciate, we did bring that up, but the credit does go to Greg Olson.
Yeah.
For you guys, again, this is your show. Does it bother you at all? Like, are you concerned at all with Sanders didn't play against? He didn't play Ohio State and Michigan week in and week out, or Alabama. I mean, his competition, his competition level was lower. And when there were times that it was even remotely equal, Nebraska early in the year, he struggled a lot. And one thing I feel like when I see from him, his passes take a bit to get there sometimes, especially on the deep outs on either side.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I worry about his arm strength, especially in New Jersey in like November, December.
Chris, talk about the hash marks. Chris loves this part.
Oh, I love the fact that, you would think Division I football now would have the hash marks like the NFL, since we have the NIL and everybody's getting prepared for the NFL. But the hash marks are wider, obviously, in college than they are in the NFL. They're a smaller distance. So that 15-yard out, I would think, you would like to see more of that rather than just showing up at the Senior Bowl. Now they're throwing from those inside hash marks. But it's hard to tell in college when you look at these quarterbacks, because they are throwing on a shorter field at times on those deep outs, those deep ins. So, I wish Sean was on the show now, because he's a big Sanders fan. But
oh my God,
yeah.
it's nauseating.
But yeah, that is a concern, because you hear about the arm. But yeah, I just want to make the right choice. I don't know if I have much faith in Shane on the pick, but I'm going to try to, have the faith in him and that they make the right decision. But, me not being a quarterback connoisseur, I'm not sure what to think. I'm just putting my faith in that they make the right move.
Right.
I can't sit here and tell you that I watched enough Sanders, right? So two things is, one is my son turned me on to Jackson Dart 3 years ago when he left USC. So because of my kid, I started watching. Again, I'm a Big Ten guy. My daughter plays at Michigan State, so
Nice.
She plays field hockey there. I adopted the Big Ten, so I'm all Big Ten up, right? So I'm only watching Big Ten football. Then my son turns and says, "Hey, I love this guy. We should watch him." So now I'm watching Ole Miss, right? So, and I'm like, I like Jackson Dart. There's a lot of things I like about Jackson Dart. I don't know. He'll be the third quarterback off the board. I don't know where that'll fall. I don't watch enough Sanders, but I did do the tape. I did watch 6 complete games on Cam Ward. Cam Ward can ball. My biggest thing on the Cam Ward side is that he runs into the sack. You know what I mean? Like, I have an issue with quarterbacks that, like, Caleb Williams used to do it. It's going to be harder for him to pull it off, that backyard football, right? Cam Ward has a little bit of that in him, right? Trying to improvise. He kind of runs into the sack a little bit, but his release is just crazy fast. Like, so to your point, John, is where Sanders definitely has great footwork, but maybe the release is a little bit slower. The ball's a little bit more calculated to get there. I don't know if that's a knock, by the way. Sure. Right? He's got good accuracy. He's got good footwork. Sean is definitely a Sanders guy. He's been watching him, his whole career. So as Chris said, I hope they make the right decision. If it's Sanders or Ward, I go Ward first. If they're gone, I don't think Jackson Dart's going to slip. I mean, again, competition, right?
Sure.
Ole Miss plays the hardest schedule out there. The guy has a little bit of footwork issue they need to work on, clean it up. Kiffin did not help him. Kiffin did not clean up his feet. He's a little bit lazy in the pocket, right? Like Syverson said, 220 pounds, 6'2.5", strong, hard to break down, isn't going to fall down on contact, can take it, right? Can make a lot of, he's a little bit of a gunslinger, as you saw in the Florida game that they lost, right? He's not really, he's going to throw that small window, kind of like Favre would or something, right? He's a little bit careless with the ball. He will throw it. But I don't hate Sanders.
Right.
But I love Abdul Carter a whole lot more.
So Daryl LeGrand in the chat, I'll answer your comment. You mentioned that people said the same thing about Josh Allen in terms of his play against competition. Josh Allen is 6'4", 240 pounds with a cannon for an arm. They are not even remotely the same comparison between the two. Sanders is a smaller guy. He does not have the cannon. He plays with anticipation. I think he has better anticipation than Ward does. But he has not played top level. So if your arm strength is lacking a little bit, you've got to be way on top of the anticipation, like a Brock Purdy. If you take Brock Purdy out of San Francisco and put him on another team, I don't think he's that successful. You need the whole scheme has to make it work for him. I think Sanders is kind of in between those guys, but you can't count on his arm talent the way Josh Allen did. You can overlook competition when you saw what Allen could bring. His biggest problem was completion percentage. He was throwing the ball all over the place. He's fixed that.
I'm an opinionated guy. If you ask my wife, she'll say I'm way too opinionated. But one thing I've learned over the years is not to make definitive statements on quarterbacks because I just don't know. And I know the NFL doesn't know. The NFL can't pick quarterbacks. And so I know I can't pick quarterbacks. I don't know how Shedeur Sanders is going to do. There is a lot of the like about his game. The arm is an issue. You can see it. And he throws a beautiful arcing deep ball, but you don't see that rocket in there. But if he's got touch, timing, anticipation, processing, you can survive with that. So I wouldn't be shocked if he's a really good NFL quarterback. I wouldn't be shocked if he's a bad quarterback. What really makes me a little bit scratch my head again with the Giants is this. Again, if you watch Hard Knocks, you know they like Jaden Daniels. We know because we know what was going on. They liked May. So they seem to have an idea of how to scout quarterback. And we know Dable, history with Josh Allen. He liked Josh Allen. Why couldn't they look at Daniel Jones, who they had under their hands for a full year before they re-signed him, and go, he's not the guy? And then they re-signed him. John has his own theory that the ownership got involved with that. And I'm not discounting that possibility. But how do you go from, I trade up for Jaden Daniels. I want, you can look at him and he's going to be good to going, we're going to give Daniel Jones $160 million. That's what makes Giants fans a little bit nervous about the quarterback thing right now, is because can Shane and Dable evaluate the quarterbacks? If they can, then just get the guy. But to me, the Daniel Jones thing is a little worry. And again, some people think ownership put their hand on the scale. If they did,
they won in 22 when it blew up the rebuild. If you look,
that was the worst thing that could happen. Right?
Yeah. If you look back, Chris and I talked about this 2 weeks ago. If you look back at what Shane said, he's like, they blew up the rebuild in 22 because they won. So they had to run the gamble of rolling the dice on Jones.
And what it made it more impressive is the offense wasn't doing that great, but as soon as they got Isaiah Hodgins, things started to open up more. And there you said to yourself, wow, look at him. You're giving him Isaiah Hodgins and these receivers. Imagine if you got him somebody. Yeah. So that the dream aspect started to set in for the for the fans.
And what happens? 6 games in, he blows an ACL. So you right away, you're like, well, that's fluky bad. That's what I was saying earlier in the show, right? Well, get hurt. Do well, get hurt, right? So he kept getting the pass, which I'm not saying he warranted the pass. I'm just saying that they kept thinking to themselves, if I just get him the guy.
Well, they mismanaged that whole thing because remember that preseason they played the starting offense one series, not one game, not one half, not one quarter. Yeah. They played the starting offense one series in the preseason and said they scored. It went down the field and they scored, and they said, "We're good. Start the season with Dallas." All hell breaks loose. It's like, oh my God!
I will take it to the grave. I believe all along that John Mara did not want to lose Saquon Barkley, and no matter what, the Giants had two options. You're either going to franchise Barkley and sign Jones, or you franchise Jones and sign Barkley. Ryan Dunleavy on your show, he explained his piece. I agree with it, but I don't agree with the concept of where he came with it. Barkley was never going to agree to a contract with the Giants. He wanted way more. He didn't get what he wanted during the season, and I think he was mad about that. And the Giants weren't going to give in. Shane's made it very clear, I don't want to pay a running back. He really didn't want to give that kind of money to Barkley. I think Mara basically said, you get the deal done. You franchise Barkley. You got to have Barkley. Get the deal done. They gave Jones because you can hide money in a quarterback contract way more than you can in a running back, because Barkley wasn't going to take any BS, voidable years. He's literally going to want his money. He knows where it's at his running back position. The Giants basically, and they gave away what they really were doing after they let Jones go. What did they keep saying over and over again? It was a 2-year deal. It was a 2-year deal. It was a 2-year deal. It wasn't when you signed him. We all knew you had a 2-year out. But if you go into it knowing you're only going to keep him for 2 years, you should have never done it in the first place, which tells me it was only done to make sure that they could franchise Barkley.
It's what Chris said. 2022 was the worst thing that could have happened to the Giants, because I think they were headed on the right path to a real legit rebuild the way it should have been done. And they got fooled. And it might have been the ownership, but they got fooled by that playoff win, that playoff. And again, they just barely got into the playoffs and by beating some bad teams, and they hit the right team at the right moment, the Vikings. And I think Giants fans, I think we all felt like, yeah, we got a real shot at these guys because we almost beat them in the regular season and we wanted them again. And then, but the Giants kind of conveniently forget the following week, the Eagles just stomped them, and that should have been told them there that maybe this isn't the guy. And Chris, the other thing too, I agree with you completely with Isaiah Hodgins and all that. But what John has heard this a bunch of times. In my mind, they really had to dumb down the offense to make Jones successful. So it's almost like they cut down half the field, and there were a lot of those backside runs that they would do with Jones. So they were playing a lot of teams, for whatever reason, stop guarding the backside against Jones. So Jones would run for 20 yards because the end would bite down, and Jones would run for it, and it worked. But once teams stopped falling for that, the Giants offense stopped working. So why did they beat the Vikings? Because the Vikings defense that year was terrible.
Secondary was horrible. Absolutely.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
So it was a great game. I loved it.
It was.
After that game, I was like, yeah.
So the Vikings effed us in 22 and they effed us again in 24. You let us beat you in 22 and then you lose to the freaking Rams when we could have got Matthew Stafford in the middle of the season. Bastards.
All right. I have one question for you guys because I want to make so Craig, you're saying Abdul Carter's your guy in the draft, right? Is that what you're saying?
It's either if they can't get Cam Ward.
So Cam Ward won.
Abdul Carter.
And then Carter 2?
And Mason Graham is 3.
I like Mason Graham too. And Chris, what's your, if you right now, I know I'm not trying to put you on the spot. No. This may change, but if there's one guy right now on February 24th, who's the guy that you want to come out of the draft with?
If they have the starting quarterback, that's not that's a bridge, that's a starter, not a Taylor Heineke, not a Mariota, but a real starter. Give me Carter at 3, the low risk, the big, for the win. Give me Carter.
I think Carter's probably.
I should have said that too. What? I should have said that too. Chris and I, we all have difference of opinions, but one thing that Chris and I have been on, going to the games is not fun. It's painful. Every week, it's just draining the life out of you because of what is happening to this team. If you have the quarterback, right? If you have, and I don't at this point, if you have a free agent quarterback that's going to be here for 2 or 3 years, you got to give me Carter. You got to give me Graham, right? If you go, like I said, if you don't have the quarterback and you have Mariota, or who else did you just say?
I was throwing out Taylor Heineke or one of those guys. He resurfaces again.
I wouldn't even buy that in the beer aisle.
Hey, I
watch him be Washington. He'll be Washington.
Our podcast too. So
So if the Giants fumble the ball and it's Carson Wentz or it's Jacoby Brissett, then you got to give me Cam Ward. You know what I mean? Yeah. Dark horses also. Let's not forget Hunter too. But I don't think I can buy into a guy that plays 2 positions only for one reason. Is can you imagine drafting Hunter in the first round as a DB and he got hurt playing wide receiver? Right? Or you draft him as a wide receiver, but he got hurt playing DB. Like, I'd rather he's such a great athlete. I'd rather him just focus on one spot. But you're gonna be tempted. You're gonna be tempted to play him at another spot.
See, the thing with Hunter is you're gonna want to have him probably if he's gonna go in as a DB, right? But then you'll have those special packages on offense because his route running, by all accounts, isn't the greatest. But you'll have him in those special packages on offense where the 2-minute or whatnot, just special packages. So he's probably doing the right thing.
You know what concerns me about that, Chris, is this: it's the Kadarius Toney thing. Not comparing him with Kadarius Toney, but when Kadarius Toney would come into the game, you knew they were going to throw the ball to him. So
you run a reverse or something.
So if Hunter comes into the ball, you're like, they're going. And the other thing about Hunter with me is this: I got to do a lot more deep dive in Hunter. I'm a little gun shy because of other guys in draft history who have been flexible enough to play. Like Isaiah Simmons is another example of this. Not that he played offense, defense, but I remember when people said Isaiah Simmons was going to be this great, great, great player because he could do everything on defense. He could do all these kinds of things, and he couldn't. He could do a little bit. Well, he could do all those things, but he didn't do any of them really, really, really well.
Could master a
right. So if you get Hunter, he better be like a superb corner. I mean, a shutdown corner. He's not the biggest guy in the world. So you better be really confident. And Giants fans I know are also really a little bit gun shy right now because we've spent so many first-round draft picks in the last 10 years at corner, and they don't seem to pan out. And again, some of that's luck, but if you go back to the Eli Apples, the Deontay Banks, even the guy –
Will Allen, don't forget Will Allen. Throw him in there.
Yeah, but even the guy that got arrested, that we had to cut. I can't really remember. Baker. All these guys that we drafted in the first round, and people are like, why do we still have these huge needs at corner? We keep drafting first-round corner. Again, that's the wrong attitude to take, but I understand it.
And Eric, funny you mention that because I ran something last year when Banks got drafted. All the number one corners the Giants have drafted. You have to go back to Mark Haynes to really find the number one corner that was drafted in the first round that was successful. It was Mark Haynes.
Aaron Ross had some success.
Yeah, but he wasn't that
for a little bit of time though. I mean,
he wasn't
the number one.
He was.
No, he was, but
he was a first round pick.
No, he was, but he wasn't. I mean, was he what you expected? Did you expect more for him?
No, that's what I was trying to say, Chris. He was exactly what you just said. He was all right, but he wasn't what you want from a number one.
But if you're drafting a cornerback at the very top of the draft, I want a guy who's like physically like a Rod Woodson. Yeah. Hunter's not that big. And to me, the problem with the Giants is you can't win games in specialty areas.
That's a good one.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? You can't, like, a cornerback's not going to win you games if you're getting run on. You're getting gashed like crazy up front. If they get to pass whenever they feel like it, it's a lot harder to play pass defense. If they have to pass and it's 3rd and 10, it's a lot easier to play defense because now you're pinning yours back going after the quarterback. We don't dictate to anybody. So I don't want to start the dictation in those back 7. I want it in the front. It's got to be up front. And I don't think Hunter, to me, he doesn't swing the needle for me for the Giants. You're just putting a guy out there that you're going to waste his talent because we're just not going to be able to turn around.
But you just had a comment from a watcher, and he might be right. He said Hunter is different. So that he could be. I just have this personal baggage. So, yeah, there, Mark B. Travis is different.
But different how, though? He's not physically different. He's average size.
No, what Mark's saying is he's so good. Capacity. He's in a different category. And I'm not discounting that. Mark, I have my own personal baggage. I'm a little bit like John. I want my guys up front like the Eagles did. And again, it's kind of a bad example because the Eagles just spent a bunch of picks in the secondary too. But I want my guy. I want to beat people up front, and then I can survive in the secondary. I'm tired of people running up and down the field on us, and I want to get after the passer.
I like Travis. I just know that you got to if you're going to go defense, you got to take care of it up front first.
Yeah.
And for me, I'd spend the money on Chris. It's Reed, right, from the Jets, and Ward from
He'll be
from
the
San Fran.
top guy. Ward, and there's a couple other guys. I forget the guy from the Lions. He's available. That might be a nice fit.
Yeah, like I like and Chris will tell you, I pounded the table for Banks. I really did. I loved Banks in Maryland. He was a physical player, so I'm not giving up on my boy Banks.
I'm not giving up on him yet either.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. He had an absolutely dismal year.
Yes, he did.
And I don't know what happened, but I was so excited they drafted him. So I'm thinking that I'm going to lean a little bit heavy on the coaching staff to teach the guy how to turn his head around and look for the ball because his ball skills suck right now. So I'm going to hope that the new DB coach is going to teach him like, hey, listen, snap your head around, look back for the ball. Maybe you'll get an interception.
It doesn't seem complicated, does it?
This might sound snarky. I am on the second or third, depends after my work day and my beer. But K-Mac, you do understand that there is more than one round in the draft. Yes, I do think we should sign a corner. Yes, I want to draft one. That doesn't mean I'm taking them at 3. I think there's plenty of corners in the second and third round. I would like the dude from East Carolina as long as his knees checks out. I know they say he'll be ready for training camp. You can give me the guy from Ole Miss. Named I'm skipping. I think it's Amos. Is his name. Yeah. So you could get corner. I'm not saying don't draft a corner. I just don't want to waste my 3rd pick in the draft on Travis Hunter when there's so many other areas that could literally turn the team around. I don't want a guy who's super talented to get lost in the fact that we're just going to get chewed up on the ground. They're going to pass whenever they feel like it, and he's not going to be able to change the game on his own. So he can go to a team that has a little bit better depth elsewhere, and he'll be a superstar. With us, he'll just be an average player at the moment while we're still trying to figure stuff out.
there's a lot of truth to that. Like I said, because the difference maker, the Giants have to go for it right now. If they want to go win 7, 8, 9 games, they got to go for it. And as much as if we had a couple more pieces, Hunter would be a great fit. Just not right now.
Yeah, putting quarterback aside, I mean, you've heard this before. Cornerback position may be one of the toughest to transition to the NFL game, right? So the risk factor play, being corner in the NFL. So I think the risk factor.
Well,
the transition.
The other thing too is the Giants. This gets back to John's point with Dable and not being able to hold on to coaches for whatever reason. And I still would really like to know what happened with Martindale and Dable. I really wish we knew what happened there. But they drafted a corner who fit a press man scheme in Martindale, and then they went to a zone system under Bowen. And that transition did not help Banks. That was a bad transition for him. And Bowen's still here. So I'm really curious to see how the new defensive back coach who's coming from the Jets, can he fix that issue? Because I'm assuming we're still going to be a heavy zone team. Not that doesn't mean we don't run man at times.
I am flat out telling you right now, I'm going to jump the wall and beat the crap out of Bowen if he goes into this season running all that zone again.
Right.
I mean, here's the thing, and we'll wrap the show up with this. We'll run a little bit long. Is this Bowen's number one problem? We had Carl Banks on a couple weeks ago. We said the same thing. I'm not taking credit for it. Like I said, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I will tell you flat out that I can't stand a defensive coordinator that says, here's the play calls and here's the strategy for the next 7 weeks. It never changed. Every week it was the same goddamn thing. At some point you go, my number one corner struggling. I need to figure something out. Let's coach this kid up. Let's run a different type of package. I don't care if you're running cover 2 on one side, you're running man on the other side. I don't care. You're a 3-win team. Figure out how to help your first-round draft pick. And he let him flounder out there. So I'm pissed. I think Bowen sucks. If Bowen goes into this year the same way as he did last year, like the guy's never going to make it out of East Rutherford alive. I mean, you gotta at least say, these are the guys I got. They're very good at what they do. You have to play to their strengths. You have to be able to bend, man, as a defensive coordinator. It's not my system or nothing. You got to bend. And Carl Banks would say, how do you expect change if you're not willing to change? The players aren't just going to become different players. You have to adjust the scheme to the talent and the personnel you have.
The good thing for Deontay Banks is he's set. If things don't work out here, he can go on and go into play on the Wizard of Oz as the Tin Man because he's still looking for a heart.
Oh. All right. Well, listen, you guys have been great. Make sure, folks, make sure you're following Eric. Make sure you're following John. Check out
BBI. And mention about your podcast because I know it's just starting out to look. Please tell us.
John can pick this up, but we did one like how many years ago? It was
2009, 2010.
And then we got away from it, was on Blog Talk Radio, and we decided to pick it up again. So we're just starting to pick it up again. So
yeah, great show, guys.
I think I was doing with John Fennelly back then. I was on with Blog Talk Radio. That was a long time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Long time
we'll have
ago.
to come on again because it shows you how bad I'm with technology. I just saw that you can click on comments. So you guys have been reading the comments all along. So I saw some of them pop up. But I see all these great questions from everybody. I didn't even know they were
Come
there.
on, Eric. So, well, listen, you guys are welcome back anytime. Yep. You guys are a blast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And if you get a free slide Chris in there, he's way better at this than I am.
Put any of the guys in.
And
we'd like to have you guys come on our show at some point too.
Absolutely.
So this is
Appreciate
fun.
that.
So
and if you guys can come up to a game, we can all put a big tailgate.
Oh, yeah.
That would be great.
But can we please get a winning season so we can celebrate after the game? Let's get and none of those opening game uniforms either. I guess
no, that is it.
No. Listen, the Giants. So I guess the Giants send Super Bowl rings out to season ticket holders. So I have a box, beautiful package of Super Bowl rings.
Right.
And I'm like, if you start doing the math, each box is probably worth $2,000 times 80,000 people. They should have kept that money and signed good players.
Or giving people more free Pepsis. They could,
what I mean?
Like a large instead of a medium.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, stop sending me all those Super Bowl rings and buy some damn players. Hey, nygiantsrush.com, interviews up there, articles up there. If you want to buy some swag, It's all up there. You guys know we're going to be here on every Monday as always, but Wednesday is our second show, which is called Rush Hour, which is the draft show. You're going to find Spartan Mike. You're going to find Truth there, and check those guys out on Wednesdays. I think they're 7:30, 8 o'clock. They might have changed the time. Make sure you check out the BBI guys, John and Eric. You guys on every week?
We try to do a couple shows a week. Yep.
What day?
So we will have, it varies. We're going to record one tomorrow. Dave Syvertson of Our Lads will be on with us tomorrow. And then we'll do a follow-up from there. And we will be doing live during the free agency period. So
heard that.
Which might not be good. We might be throwing chairs and stuff like that.
Well, we'll get you. Listen, we do customer appreciation night for the draft. So we bring on 60 different, each night we do 40 to 60 viewers. Everybody gets a 15-minute time slot to talk about the draft. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we'd love to have you on for draft night too.
Yeah, that's a good idea, guys.
Appreciate it, guys. This has been great. Love it. Love it.
No,
and again, your production values are awesome of the lead in and all the stuff. I love that. So that's cool.
One thing that we've always been known for, it's in the thing, is that we tell you what the players tell us. We've interviewed over 70 Giants, current and former. We're very fortunate that, we've gotten some good content over the years, but we appreciate all the Giants content creators. Are all out there grinding away. So, Cold, why are you boycotting? Cold is being cold. You are not boycotting draft night anymore because he got mad. He's mad. Cold's mad at me because I stuck him on the second night. Cold's like, listen, Cold is awesome. He's like the OG here on the podcast. I put him on day 2 instead of on day 1 with me and Chris, and he's like, "That's it. I'm never coming on." Look. This is Cold every time. End the show. Cold's the best. All right, guys.
You got a loyal guy there.
Cold's the man. He's on fire every single week. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys next Monday.
All right, cool.
Hey, Malik, what's the name of that book?
Just give me the damn ball.